Dear Cynics and Romantics, my name is Monice, and you are listening to the Romantic Cynic podcast. On this episode, I wanted to cover the 3 types of love that most of us will likely experience in our lifetime. The first one being the love that looks right. The second, the hard love. And this is typically the one that most of us will repeat over and over again. And then the third type of love is the love that lasts. So I hope you join me on today's episode where we might mix in some laughter, maybe some tears, romance, and of course, some cynicism. Welcome to episode 34. There is this popular belief that we experience 3 types of love in our lifetime. And if you're listening to this and you hear all 3, you're going to think, oh my gosh, this is true. Now, not all of us experience all 3 types of love. You hear about the stories of the high school sweethearts. They meet, fall in love, married with kids, and live happily ever after, So you hear of those experiences, not as much as you do probably like with your grandparents or maybe your parents or maybe even your grandparents. Now, with the 3 types of love, I know from my own personal experience, I could say that I've experienced all 3. And in my introduction, I do mention that the second type of love, the hard love, is the one that most of us, or maybe all of us, have experienced repetitively. This is the one love that we typically can repeat over and over again before we find the third type of love, or before the third type of love finds us unexpectedly. Now, why do we fall in love? In a previous episode, I talk about Robert Sternberg's triangular theory of love, where you have 3 corners of love. And I would recommend going back and, if you can find it, go listen to that one, because it's very informative, and I'm a big believer of this particular theory, and it's very much a theory that is accepted universally as how we people fall in love. So I'm going to talk about the 3 types of love, and of course give my little examples that I usually have in every single one of my episodes. So the first type of love is the love that looks right. It's also the first love, your first love. What does that look like? So typically that is one that we fall in love with someone either that we meet in junior high or high school or in college. Those are the ones that you have all the rush of emotions. Everything seems exciting and possible, and you are 100% certain that this is the person that you were going to spend the rest of your life with, no matter what. And this is the love that kind of teaches you what love is, or what love can be. You get those inevitable butterflies in your stomach whenever you see them. You feel lust for them. And this is the first time you probably experience lust or your own sexuality towards someone that you are in love with. And again, I'm not talking about crushes, because, all of us could have had crushes throughout our entire lives. Even when we're in relationships, sometimes people get crushes on people. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that this is kind of something you experience at a young age, and you're impatient and everything is new and your heart feels all these new emotions. It's almost a little overwhelming at times because you don't understand how to deal with the emotions that go with it. Now, my example of my first love is someone that I had grown up with. I had known this person for a very long time. And I feel like maybe I had always loved him. Maybe not always, but I had probably fallen in love with him at a young age, but I didn't realize what it was until I got a little older. And it was someone that I was really good friends with. We always got along. I loved his family. He loved my family. And it was one of those like shocks to the system because I didn't understand what I was feeling at the time. I had explained to my mom in a conversation, like, hey, mom, like, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling butterflies. I feel like there's something off with how I am feeling towards this person, but in a very in a way that I can't quite understand, but it feels good and it feels right. My mom knew that I was in love with this person before I even realized that I was in love with him. And when I finally figured it out, like, it was a pretty incredible and amazing feeling. And it was also a love I experienced, and this is what you might experience in your first love, where you have all these possibilities. You believe that this is the person you're meant to spend your rest of your life with. You see a future, you see a family, you see everything. Unfortunately, for whatever the circumstances that maybe you've experienced, they don't feel the same way that you feel towards them, and it's so heartbreaking and it's so disappointing. And you have to learn to kind of move on without them, or you have to learn to see a future, or maybe not a future, with them. You have to learn to see your future without them. Maybe because they pick someone else, or maybe because the timing isn't right for you, or maybe it could be whatever, a number of factors. But this is the love that your first love you experience, and it's probably the one that may have the most heartbreak, because you have such high expectations of what you truly believe to be maybe the love of your life. Now, again, these are all new emotions, so it's very exhilarating because you don't know how to handle them, and you don't know necessarily how to move forward or how to cope with them. Sometimes there's an immaturity factor that comes along with your first love. The second type of love is the hard love. It's the love I feel you end up learning the most, maybe about yourself. This is the one where you think that you are able to finally let go of the past, and you are attempting to put yourself out there to be somewhat vulnerable, despite, maybe the good and the bad memories that you experienced in your first relationship or the first love that you have. And the thing is, with this type of love, you try to convince yourself that this is the love of your life. This is the next person. This is the person you're meant to be with. And some of the things that you might experience in this particular relationship, you have somewhat high expectations, again, because you all of a sudden feel like that you need to counterbalance what you experienced in your first love. So you tend to put everything that you have. Sometimes you might put everything in you have in this relationship. You make yourself vulnerable, and this person just again disappoints you. Or this is the type of love typically where you might experience abuse in relationships. They might treat you terribly, or you might treat them terribly. They could be doing everything, all the right things for all the right reasons, but for some reason, maybe you get annoyed with them or you just don't like them. And of course, the reverse is true. Maybe they treat you poorly. They don't respect you as a person. Maybe this is the point where you You play games with each other to make each other jealous, to make each other envious. You don't have that same level of you don't have respect for each other. This is the type of love it's called the hard love for a reason, because it is so difficult. You convince yourself, maybe you see them in a certain way, but because you think that you feel love for this person, they may seem like they are the perfect person in your own eyes, because your brain isn't always communicating with what your heart is feeling. This is the type of love that you just get gut wrenching, like negative emotions. You feel anxiety. You feel like you're taken for granted. You feel as if maybe this is the only person you'll ever have a chance with, or this is the only person that you'll ever have a life with. So this is the person that you settle with. And I feel like this is the type of relationship that you might be on repeat. These three types of love, I'm not saying you're going to fall in love exactly 3 times. No, this is the hard love is the one type of love that, again, I think we end up repeating over and over again, because we think it's the next. We think, when I say think, we don't know. We think this is the person, or we are so desperate to be in a relationship that we settle for this person. There's going to be a lot of highs and a lot of lows. There's going to be fighting and arguments and misunderstandings and miscommunication. And this is the type of a relationship that I've actually repeated twice with my first quote unquote boyfriend out of high school. And then, of course, with my ex-husband. I kind of joke around because I like to take light into all of my experiences. I don't like holding grudges, and I don't like holding the negativity. But these are the 2 relationships that I believe that I repeated, because I didn't learn my lesson the first time, so I had to learn my lesson the second time. This is the type of relationship I know I can say from my marriage. This is the relationship that I really worked hard to make work. Like this is going to be terrible for me to say, but I loved my ex-husband to a point, but I was in this relationship because I wanted to be in a relationship. And it didn't matter what that relationship looked like, unfortunately, because I wanted it so badly. And I just wanted a relationship. It didn't matter who it was. I just wanted to be in a relationship. And that is a really terrible thing to do, because I can always be accountable for my own actions. I read a quote recently that said that if you look at your person that you're in a relationship with and you don't feel love towards them, the best thing for you to do is let them go, because they are someone else's blessing and not yours. And I really thought about that, and it really made me aware that me being in a relationship with my ex-husband for as long as I had been was really kind of selfish, in a sense, on my part, because I wanted to be in a relationship. And again, he mattered to a point, but I wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to make the relationship work. But at the end of the day, he was someone else's. He didn't belong to me. And I feel like the hard love, the second type of love, is something that we as people really have to learn who we are. I feel like this type of love, the hard love, we find out and we find out and figure out ourselves that all the things that we don't want in a relationship. I'm actually a really big believer, and this just goes back to like love, relationships, work, anything. in regards to relationships, I am a big believer that we learn the most from our failures versus our successes. We learn the most of what not to do in negative situations that we've experienced from other people. I'm a big believer in that. And I feel as if my first real relationship out of high school and my ex and my marriage, being with these people in these relationships, I figured out what type of relationship I didn't want. I figured out what I would not settle for. I figured out that I was not the best version of myself. And the big thing is, like, I always want to be the best version of who I am. I always want to work towards being the best version of what I'm capable. And I always want to be able to have a partner that I'm able to grow with and I'm able to give the best part of me, the best version of myself to. Which gets us to the third type of love. And this type of love is the one that lasts. This is the light relationship that we would call true love. The relationship that is, if you've experienced this type of love, this is the love that creeps up on you. It's the one that comes at you in the most unexpected time, at the most unexpected way. You are least expecting this particular person to come into your life, even when you feel as if you may not be ready. And that is okay, because I also feel that you grow the most of who you are with this person in this relationship. You find and discover the best versions of you together. You grow together. You build a life together. Everything is all about the team dynamic in this relationship. The communication level is the best you've ever experienced. The way you feel for each other. It's never about wanting what you can get from them. It's not about the needs of the individual. It's about the needs of the relationship. It's about you wanting to give your all to this person. It's about putting so much effort and giving 100%. In a previous episode, I mentioned that, sometimes, and I was also a big believer in this, that it's like, oh, well, I'm going to give 50% and this person's going to give 50%. And then all of a sudden we're going to make 100%. And that's just not the case in this type of relationship. The third type of relationship, the third type of love, where you give 100% effort to the person and they in turn give you 100% of their effort. And what you have is a really well-rounded, meaningful, loving, caring relationship. This is the relationship that you figure out your sense of loyalty and how loyal you can be to a person. This is the relationship that you figure out the level of commitment that you can have. I know from my previous relationship, my marriage, I was so not committed to my ex-husband. I wasn't 100% loyal to my ex-husband either. I was the type of person who was in a relationship with my husband where I can admit this about myself, where I was kind of looking in terms of, I knew that my ex-husband wasn't the person I was meant to be with because I kept searching for the person I was meant to be with. And in the third type of love, maybe you've experienced this, but you've heard the same, my search is done. Like, I don't, there is no searching after this. You are locked. You have sharp focus with this person. They are just your true north. They're the person that no other person outside of this relationship, of this type of love, exists for you, because they're the ones that have 100% of your attention. And you don't even look. You don't even think about looking. It's not even something like it's a moment in your in this type of love where you're like, it's non-existent. You're not even searching for anyone else, because this is the person that you are meant to be with. This is the person that was so unexpected. And this is the person that you become the best version of yourself with. You may have had all these walls up because of the hard type of love that you've experienced. And this is the relationship where those walls come crashing down really hard, and you're okay with it. And they get through because they are caring and they are understanding. And there is a sense of freedom with this type of love. You don't have to shield yourself. I also believe that they make you face all your insecurities, but they do it in a loving way. They're supportive of everything that you do. They might not necessarily agree with some of the things that you may want to accomplish in life, but they are there to support you, and vice versa. You're there to support them. This is the type of love that you end up unlearning everything that you have ever known or have ever experienced about love, and you begin, it's kind of like almost like a rebirth, like a phoenix that rises above the ashes, and you get to experience a true love, a true commitment. And this type of love seems easy. This is a love that doesn't seem like it takes a lot of work. I mean, this type of love does take work, because you might each have to work through some of your own cynicisms. You will face levels of adversity, and you're going to discover how strong you are together when you face moments of adversity. And you're going to do it in a healthy manner. And that's everything that you have to realize. Like, you're going to find love, this type of love, in the most unexpected way. But it's going to be the love that's worth every single heartache. It's going to be worth every single pain and tear you've cried from other relationships. It's going to be worth all of the heartbreak. And you're going to get to a point where you are no longer cynical. You're going to get to a point where there is a high level of belief, trust, respect, loyalty, and faith with this person. So I hope that you found some insight in this topic of the 3 types of loves. And maybe you have experienced all 3. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you're still searching. Or maybe you haven't quite experienced the love that lasts. And that is okay, because what I have learned that sometimes time is what it takes. And you have to be really patient with yourself. And if you don't have that type of person in your life right now, work on yourself. Work on bettering who you are as a person. Discover who you are. Know what you like. Know what you dislike. Travel. Experience the world. Learn something new. Learn how to play the guitar if you don't know how to play the guitar. Write a book. Develop who you are as a person and who you are as an individual. And the moment you do that, when it's least expected, you will find the love of your life and the love that will last. I would like to end my podcast episode on a quote that I read, and it goes like this. This was an anonymous quote. I couldn't find the author. The best things in life happen unexpectedly. The best stories begin with, and all of a sudden. The best adventures were never planned as they turned out to be. Free yourself from expectations. The best will come when and from when you least expect it. Thank you for listening, and as always, yours truly, the Romantic Cynic.